Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. What a weekend for Joe Biden. First, on Friday, we heard the leaked tapes from Special Counsel Robert Hur that showed just how bad the former president's cognitive decline was. And then we learned yesterday that he's being diagnosed with what is being called an aggressive cancer. We have the latest on these breaking stories. At least 2 people are dead. 19 were hurt after a Mexican ship collided with the Brooklyn Bridge over the weekend. Treasury Secretary Bessent says he expects trade talks to yield some regional deals and says he's not too concerned with the Moody's downgrade of the U.S. credit rating. And the Food and Drug Administration has issued a long-awaited approval of Novavax's COVID-19 vaccine, but with some unusual restrictions. Finally, House Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday teased plans to bump up the timeline for implementing work requirements on Medicaid to help win over support from the 5 Republicans who voted against advancing President Trump's marquee legislation from the Budget Committee last Friday, which was a key setback, of course. Representative Ralph Norman was one of the 5, and we'll hear from him today to hear firsthand why he voted against the bill on Friday.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills, but I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Former President Joe Biden is battling what is being called an aggressive form of prostate cancer. We'll share what we have on this developing story. But first, leaked audio from Joe Biden's interview with Special Counsel Robert Hur showed the president struggling with key memories, including when his son Beau died, when he left the vice presidency, why he had classified documents that he shouldn't have had at his beach home and at his office. The audio was leaked after more than a year of congressional lawmakers demanding its release amid questions about the former president's memory lapses and his mental acuity in those final months of his presidency. The transcript of Biden's interview with Hur was released last year and confirmed the president's frequent memory lapses. The audio, though, obtained by Axios, contains clips from several interviews between the former president and Mr. Hur related to an investigation into his handling of classified documents when he's vice president. And just hearing the audio for yourself kind of shows just how bad Joe Biden was.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer donor shot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
Yes, sir.
Remember, in this time frame, my son is either been deployed or is dying. And so it was, and by the way, there were still a lot of people at the time when I got out of the Senate that were encouraging me to run in this period, except the president. I'm not a mean thing to say. I mean, he just thought that she had a better shot of winning the presidency than I did. And so I hadn't at this point, even though I'm at Penn, I hadn't walked away from the idea that I may run for office again. If I ran again, I'd be running for president. And so what was happening though, when did Bo die? May 30th, 2018. Was it 2015 he had died?
2015.
I think it's 2015.
I'm not sure the months, but I think that was That's right, Mr. President.
And what's happened in the meantime is that Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Yeah, okay.
Wow. I mean, it just really shows you how bad Joe Biden was. Right there at the end, he's asking himself, why do I have 2017 here? And an aide, someone is having to remind him, well, that's when you left office. It's painful. As you heard, Biden could not remember when his son Bo died. He got confused on what happened in 2016. It's pretty monumental, wasn't it? And when he left office. And Biden thought he was fit to serve another 4 years. That is a scary, scary thought. And evidently, Jill Biden and the whole family was supporting him. They were ready for him to run again. They'd do anything they could to maintain power, to keep control. They knew Joe Biden wasn't capable of another 4 years. They knew Joe Biden wasn't even capable of serving when he was. I mean, what you heard there, and that is just a small clip. That's about just over 2 minutes of the testimony, of the questioning of Joe Biden under Special Counsel Robert Hur. When asked by Hur about where he kept papers that he was actively working on around 2017, 2018, Biden said that's when he started this rambling about Bo Biden was either deployed or is dying. Well, that's not the case, period. Bo Biden died in 2015. At one point, Biden said to himself, when did Bo die? And a lawyer answered that as 2015. He also said in the audio that President Trump was elected in 2017 and then was corrected. Well, actually, that was 2016. That's when he asked, well, why do I have 2017 here? Later, when asked about a classified document on Afghanistan that was found at his home, Biden said at first he wasn't sure how the document got there, but then he admitted, well, I guess I wanted to hang on to it for posterity's sake. Wow. The interview was also filled with long pauses, with Biden sometimes going off on tangents and slurring his words and obviously didn't know what he was talking about at times. The House Judiciary Committee last July sued then Attorney General Merrick Garland for the audio recordings. We now know why they were digging in and holding on to them, don't we? Can you imagine if these tapes had been released last year in the middle of the presidential campaign? Joe Biden would not have had to have failed so miserably in the debate like he did, because I suspect the Democrat Party probably would have retired him much sooner than they did. It wouldn't have taken the debate to have pushed him out. I mean, the House Judiciary Committee, they stressed the importance of the, quote, verbal and nonverbal context of Biden's answers that could be provided by the audio recordings. I mean, again, you can read a transcript all day long, but until you actually hear it, you don't get the full extent to just how bad Joe Biden was. And it really kind of shows you why Special Counsel Hur described him as a, quote, sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. At the time, the committee argued that the audio recordings, not merely the transcripts, are the best available evidence of how President Biden presented himself during the interview. We know that. We see that. The lawsuit came before Joe Biden dropped out of the 2024 presidential race last July, again after he struggled in the June debate. But here's the thing. Joe Biden, to this day, I mean, just a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, in a speech that he gave, he still believes that he could serve, that he could be an effective president, that he could have beaten Donald Trump. Joe Biden still thinks he could have beaten Donald Trump. Well, look, let's let the old man continue to do that. If he wants to believe that, if it makes him feel good to think that, well, if Kamala Harris hadn't pushed him out, he could have won, that's all right. That's fine. I think Robert Hur was more than sympathetic when he called him a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. I'm just thankful that he's not a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man who is in the Oval Office because it would have been a disaster, folks, a complete disaster if Joe Biden had run and if he had somehow been elected again. Coming up, that's not the only news from Joe Biden, though. We learned over the weekend that he actually has just been diagnosed with cancer. We have the details for you. Are you ready for this? I dropped over 30 pounds on the PhD weight loss plan. No Ozempic, no shots, no meds. Look, I refuse to rely on prescriptions for life, and you probably feel the same. Joey Hudson here. Here's what Big Pharma won't tell you. Your body already makes GLP-1. That's the hormone that fights hunger. PhD helps your body produce it naturally, faster, and without side effects. With PhD, there's no muscle loss, no rebound weight gain, and no cravings. Just real, lasting weight loss the natural way. Right now, get a free body scan and personalized metabolic assessment. It takes 5 minutes and shows what's really happening inside your body. You'll walk out knowing how to flip your fat-burning switch. No shots needed. Don't trade your health for a quick fix. You can do this without Big Pharma and without the drugs. Plus 15% off when you fully commit to your program and the PhD Get Results Guarantee. Call now 864-644-1900. Start today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. On Friday, 5 House Republicans voted against advancing President Trump's big, beautiful bill, as it's being called, which contains key features, of course, of his legislative agenda. House GOP lawmakers could only lose 2 votes from their members in the committee and still push the legislation ahead. Joining us today is Representative Ralph Norman from South Carolina's 5th District, who was one of the 5 votes. Congressman, it's always good to have you. How are you, sir?
Doing fine, Joey. Glad to be with you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time today. Let's just jump right in. You're catching some heat on your no vote, but knowing you have a good reason. And before we get into the details of those reasons and what you don't like about the bill, take a minute and just give us an overall view of what is in the bill.
Sure. Well, first of all, people need to realize that the vote that I took Thursday wasn't the end-all to everything. I've had people call me saying you're getting in the way of the tax cuts. We have one chance to give money back to the taxpayers. It's just not true. We're taking the bill up again tonight. It's Sunday night. I just landed in D.C., and at 10 o'clock tonight we're going to take another bill. Even if it fails there, we've got another shot at it. We just having it delayed for Memorial Day, which is what they're pushing for. Here's the crux of what we're asking, Joey. The good parts about the bill, tax cuts. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, and a host of regulations that are going to be lifted, a host of credits for those manufacturing components that are here in the United States, and it's all good. I'm 100% for that. Now, coupled with that was the instructions that we gave each of the 12 committees to come up with cuts. In other words, we can't keep running deficits. Moody's this past, I guess it was yesterday, downgraded our debt.
Yeah.
That's the last of the rating agencies that have, along with Fitch Ratings in 2023, and then I think it was S&P. Bottom line, we've got a spending problem. We don't have an income problem. So what did I object to? Well, one, able-bodied Americans who choose not to work are included in Medicaid payments. And before you say that's not, that's a small factor, it's not. It's in South Carolina it's a $1.1 billion expense. Nationwide, we have 24 million Americans who just choose not to go to work. That's wrong. Along with the able-bodied Americans, illegals are on the dole to get a government paycheck. I'm sorry, if you're not an American citizen, you do not need to get a federal government check, whether it's Medicaid or any of the other 20 agencies that give away our tax money. Along with it, the Green New Deal subsidies. They call them the IRA, Inflation Reduction. But that's not, it's anything but that. Biden put that in. Here's what that entails. Credits for electric cars. It was $7,000 per car for an electric vehicle. That's not the role of government. Subsidies for wind and solar panels. That's not the role of government. They had air conditioning. I mean, you name it. They've got hundreds of tax credits that go out to groups that don't need it. I mean, that's not the government's role to give away money that we don't have. That's the crux of what we're asking. And now they say they did that, but here's what they did. You know, we came up with $1.5 trillion in cuts for this year due to reconciliation because we got the House, the Senate, and the White House. 1.5 minimum, and then $2 trillion aspiration, I guess.
Yeah.
The 12 committees came up with the cuts, but here's what they classified as a cut. They're saying they cut able-bodied Americans off the rolls and included that as a savings. Well, guess what the time frame is? 4 to 7 years.
Wow.
Illegals, the same thing. So what I'm saying is I'm not in for smoke and mirrors. We will have another chance to vote tonight at 10. We're asking the administration to at least do these things. This is what Donald Trump campaigned on, particularly on the tax credits. We end them day one. They were given 4 to 7 years to keep giving money. And, again, our debt is a problem, and that's the long and the short of it.
Yeah. With me today, Representative Ralph Norman. Congressman, what do you say to those constituents who are concerned that you're not supporting President Trump's agenda? And what do you say to the president? He posted on Truth Social over the weekend that he needs GOP House members to unite behind the one big, beautiful bill. Of course, again, I understand what you're doing here. You said to the Post and Courier, no bill is better than a bad bill. Are you willing to? Is there something that you, if the president calls you, or is there something, some type of agreement, compromise in there that would get your support?
Look, I support the president. We're going to get the tax cuts. It's irresponsible for any representative of any party, and we don't have Democrat support on any of this, but for any party not to try to make this bill better. We're going to get a bill. Now, it's a question of when. The tax cuts don't expire until December of the end of this year. So we're getting the tax cuts. Now, I mean, for the president's tweet on grandstanding, I don't need to grandstand. I don't do that. But, when you look at what happened last year to our deficit, and, if they had a good article, I think it was in the Daily Caller, that we had obligations. The government did a $15 trillion. $7 trillion went to fund the government, and the $8 trillion went to fund maturing debt. That's bad news. We had only $5 trillion left, and to spend $10 trillion and add to our borrowing, I just can't fathom that. It's smoke and mirrors. So what I would tell President Trump is, we want to pass your bill. But let's don't keep illegals on the rolls. Let's don't keep able-bodied Americans who eat potato chips on the couch. Let's make them go to work and do it now, not 4 to 7 years, and count that as a savings. And I've had it with smoke and mirrors because we don't have the time. When this debt has been downgraded like it has by all three major agencies, folks, we got a problem. And so, now am I willing to take the heat? Yes, because I think it's that. Now, I will say this too, Joey. I'm not just so rigid. Let's say if they come up with a compromise. Let's say they want to pay the illegals and the able-bodied Americans for a year. I would look at that. But on the subsidies, it's like opening the dam up on money again that we don't have. That the private sector ought to be doing it. They don't need the government help. And I'm just tired of continuing to say we're fiscally conservative, which we all campaign on, and don't back it up. Yeah. And now's the time to back it up.
Yeah. Well, and Congressman, with some of the objections that you have stated here today, I got a feeling that President Trump is probably right in there with you. I don't think that he wants these things either. Well, it's always good talking with you, Congressman. I appreciate your time. We'll be watching things. We'll see what happens.
That sounds good. Appreciate what you're doing, Joey.
Thank you, sir. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. One final thing on the Biden tapes. Biden responding to when Hur said that he was a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. Biden said, quote, "I'm a well-meaning and I'm an elderly man and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation." I mean, that's the attitude Joe Biden has. This is the same man who could not remember the date that he left office. This is the same man who did not know. He got confused when his son, Beau, died. In another instance, included Biden being asked about a notebook in his possession that was related to the war in Afghanistan. He said the date is 4/20/09. Was I still vice president? I was, wasn't I? Yeah. He didn't seem to know if he's vice president. But it wasn't Biden. Biden's not the only one who thought he's still capable and who still thinks he's capable. Even as the tapes were being leaked and us being able to hear for ourselves, Democrat leadership is still defending Joe Biden's ability to lead the nation. South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn appeared on CNN's State of the Union, where Jake Tapper asked if he's now concerned about Biden wanting to serve another 4 years. Here's James Clyburn.
At a different time in that interview, he's asked about the 2017-2018 period, and he says during that period, his son Beau was either deployed or dying, but Beau was deployed in 2008-2009, and he died tragically in May 2015. Needless to say, even supporters of the president have heard these tapes and been alarmed by it. What was your response to them? Did you see much of that when you had meetings and interactions with President Biden during his term?
No, I didn't. The fact of the matter is I saw Biden often, but not as often as people seem to think. I saw him, talked to him on the telephone very often, and I never saw anything that I thought was outside of the ordinary.
Well, with all due respect, sir, having interviewed you quite often, I don't think there's any comparison between how sharp you are and your ability to talk and answer questions and get dates right, et cetera, and what we've seen from President Biden, both in that audio, but also throughout 2023, 2024, especially on the debate stage. Do you think that Joe Biden really would have been able to perform as president all the way through January 2029 when he would be 86?
Yes, I thought that back then. I still think that. But I don't know that. When people ask me, did I know this or did I know the other? And the fact of the matter is, no, I didn't. And you make my point here. So it's not all about age. I've seen people develop Alzheimer's when they're in their 30s and 40s. So it's not about age. It's about the ability to do the job. And I never saw anything that allowed me to think that Joe Biden was not able to do the job. Just that simple.
Just that simple, huh, Congressman? Wow. So these tapes were leaked on Friday, and we then learned yesterday that the former president also learned on Friday that he has cancer. Biden's team shared in a statement that read, last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer characterized by a Gleason score of 9, grade group 5, with metastasis to the bone. The statement went on to read, while this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management. The president and his family are reviewing treatment options with his physician. So how long have they known this? That's the big question. White House Fox News correspondent Peter Doocy points out that the American people were assured that Biden was fit to serve another term just last year, but also points out that since Biden dropped out of the 2024 race, there's not been a lot of scrutiny on his health.
It's very sad to hear. And as far as the diagnosis, we know that we just know what we're told, right? And White House officials assured us through basically July of last year that he was healthy enough to continue serving. After July 21st of last year, that's when he dropped out, there was a lot less scrutiny on whether or not, on his physicals and the specifics. And so who knows how long they've actually known about it, but cancer is central to Joe Biden's story. He talks so much about his son's cancer and the impact that it had on him. And we know that Joe Biden, as president, did everything that he could to try to keep himself as healthy as possible. He had a trainer that was coming over to the White House twice a week or something like that. In the morning, he had to get special permission to use a Peloton because of the network. They don't like to have extra Wi-Fi networks in the residence of the president. And so it is a very sad diagnosis. And it's worth pointing out, he just formed a personal office. We didn't hear anything from them for the first couple months post-presidency. And the first email that I received from the personal office of Joe Biden and the new spokesman that they've hired was with the news of this diagnosis.
You may recall that during his presidency, Joe Biden had a cancerous skin lesion removed from his chest, according to the White House at the time. Former White House physician Kevin O'Connor said in February 2023 that skin tissue was removed during a health assessment that Biden received and was sent for a biopsy, which revealed that it was cancerous. Biden's doctor wrote in a memo at the time, as expected, the biopsy confirmed that the small lesion was basal cell carcinoma. All cancerous tissue was successfully removed. The area around the biopsy site was treated presumptively with electrodesiccation and curettage at the time of biopsy. No further treatment is required, Biden's doctor said. Biden is 82 years old. He's the oldest living U.S. president at the time. Look, I'm sorry for Joe Biden. I'm sorry that he is experiencing this, and I pray for him. I pray for all of his caretakers and for his family. I just say that we dodged a bullet, didn't we? Not that I don't think that he could have ever beaten Donald Trump. I think Trump probably would have easily beaten Joe Biden just like he did Kamala Harris. But still, the idea that the Democrat Party even considered putting Joe Biden on the ballot last year is just a scary thought. On the text line, Jerry in Landrum writes, "Hey, Joey, some judges may need to learn this proverb. It is not good to be partial to the wicked and so deprive the innocent of justice." Jerry, appreciate your note. You can always text me. You can email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Faye writes, "Joey, I sent you an email this morning." I got it, Faye. Thank you. "About the young mother who was brutally murdered by 6 illegals in Lancaster, South Carolina. Why on earth will Governor McMaster not deputize our law officers so they can arrest and have illegals deported? Understand a petition is being circulated to ask McMaster to do this." Well, now, there's a little misunderstanding about this. Look, if an illegal breaks the law, a sheriff's deputy, a police officer, anybody can arrest them and turn them over to ICE. Now, I know there's this petition being circulated, and this talk about McMaster not deputizing all of our law enforcement officers like Florida has, I think it is. And as I understand it, there is another step that McMaster could do that would give law enforcement more flexibility, I guess, when it comes to illegals. We're going to check into that, and I'm going to get you an answer to that, because I'm pretty certain that Governor Henry McMaster wants to do whatever he can to get illegals out of South Carolina. Faye, I'll follow up on that, though. Dan writes, hey, Joey, on this discussion about birthright citizenship, it'd be a lot easier if they could change the law to say that you must be, if you're born here and your parents are legal citizens, then you'll have to have the right to be a citizen. If they're not, then you do not become a citizen. But right now, if somebody, say, is pregnant and comes to Walt Disney World from Germany, does that mean if they have the baby there and at Disney World that child would be considered a U.S. citizen? To me, that doesn't make sense. That should not be allowed. Dan, you're right. It should not be allowed. And look, we know why so many of these young mothers try to slip into the country and have their babies, because they know that child will have a better potential future as an American citizen. They're working on that, though. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday dismissed the idea that Moody's downgrade of the U.S. sovereign credit rating is going to really affect us, as the Republican-controlled Congress tried to push ahead on President Donald Trump's sweeping tax cut bill on Friday. And again, coming up next, we're going to have Representative Ralph Norman. He's going to talk with us about why he voted no on Friday. A lot of activity over the weekend. We'll get you updated with that. Treasury Secretary Bessent, in a pair of television interviews, said that the bill's provisions extending the 2017 tax cuts that were passed under President Trump's first term would spur economic growth that would outpace what the nation owed, even as nonpartisan analysts warned the measure that it would add trillions to the federal government's $36.2 trillion in debt. He appeared on CNN State of the Union. He said, I don't put much credence in Moody's downgrade. The House Budget Committee on Friday rejected the bill with a handful of Republican hardliners saying that they were concerned that it did not sufficiently cut spending. And again, Representative Ralph Norman is one of those. He'll be joining us. House Speaker Mike Johnson separately yesterday said that the chamber is still on track to pass the bill. Said, we've had a lot of conversations. We'll have more today. Fox News and Shannon Bream, when asked about hardline Republicans Chip Roy and Ralph Norman demanding more spending cuts, he said, we're going to get it done. Congressional Republicans in 2017 also argued that the tax cuts would pay for themselves by stimulating economic growth, but the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates the changes increased the federal deficit by just under $1.9 trillion over a decade, even when including positive economic effects. So who knows? Lot of questions there, but we're gonna get some clarification on that for you. The Food and Drug Administration has officially granted full approval to Novavax's COVID-19 vaccine, but with unexpected restrictions that limit its use to certain populations. Now, listen to this. And by the way, you probably don't care what Novavax, what COVID-19 vaccines are out there. If you're like me, you're not going to get it. But some people do. In a move that has been long awaited by Novavax. They've been working on this new vaccine for quite some time now. The agency gave a green light only for adults aged 65 and older, or individuals 12 to 64 who have at least one underlying health condition that puts them at a higher risk for COVID-19. This new license replaces the vaccine's previous emergency use authorization, which had applied broadly to anyone over 12 years old. So basically, as I understand it right now, only people 65 or older, or the majority of people 65 or older, are the ones who will be able to get this new vaccine. Now, this is a different type of vaccine from what I've been able to gather here. Unlike the Myrna-based shots from Pfizer and Moderna, Novavax's vaccine uses a more traditional protein-based approach, a method familiar to those who've received older vaccines like hepatitis B or influenza, the flu vaccine. While Novavax's competitors are already fully licensed for age 12 and up, and they are authorized even for infants, This latest FDA action makes Novavax the only COVID vaccine in the U.S. that is fully approved but limited to specific demographics. In its Friday letter to Novavax, the FDA offered no public rationale for limiting the vaccine to high-risk groups, a highly unusual move that breaks with earlier expectations, according to those who follow this type of thing. Again, it's all Greek to me. And I don't know why this is so important, but hey, some people think that it is. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, was in upstate South Carolina on Friday to face down the threat of violence in a courtroom. Now, this was not an abstract threat. This was a real serious threat. A 19-year-old from Greenville was arrested and charged for threatening to assassinate Congresswoman Mace in a post on X. Now, let me be clear. This wasn't just some anonymous troll mouthing off online. According to authorities, this individual admitted to making the threat openly, no questions asked, and the target, of course, a sitting member of Congress. And here's the kicker. This individual, booked under the name of Samuel Theodore Kane, goes by Roxy Wolf on social media and identifies as a transgender woman. Congresswoman Mace didn't flinch. She showed up in person for the bond hearing and told the judge directly what this threat has meant to her and her 2 children. Her kids live in fear, and that, folks, is unacceptable. Look, no elected official, no American should have to look over their shoulder because some radical activist, some trans activist, has decided to get violent. And let me say, I applaud the judge in this case, James Hudson, no relations to me. He did the right thing. He denied bond, told the defendant straight up, I do believe you are a credible threat. Now, imagine that. In today's time, a judge standing up for law and order. But here's what really got my attention. Mace didn't sugarcoat it. Now, she's known to be a grandstander. I give her that. But she stood up. She called it what it is. She said that this so-called trans movement has become radicalized. It's a cult, she said. And based on what we're seeing play out across the country, from campus mobs to threats of violence, it's kind of hard to argue with her. She has a point, and we need to start standing up to these groups. Now, the media is going to try to twist this. They'll focus on the identity of the suspect more than the crime. They'll claim that Congresswoman Mace was being provocative or controversial. But you and I both know what this really is, a sitting member of Congress targeted for her views, for speaking out. And she's been very outspoken supporting women's sports and not allowing men to be in women's sports, not allowing men to go to women's bathrooms. She's standing up for women and girls and calling out woke insanity. And this young man didn't like it, I guess. And this is not the first time that Representative Mace has been threatened. She was also named target of a Pennsylvania man, a lunatic, who went online calling himself Mr. Satan and threatened to kill President Trump, anyone standing in his way, including Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Death threats for defending the rights of women, standing against biological males invading women's spaces, that's how unhinged the left has become, and it's become somewhat normal. I mean, you've got the left rallying around these people saying it's their right to do this. Stand up. It's just freedom of speech. Wow. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.